Here are a few of the strangest procedures done on animals. Number 10. Monkey business. A monkey head transplant seems like an odd and far-fetched concept. But, believe it or not, the first successful monkey head transplant happened back in 1970. This bizarre procedure took place at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio. The person behind this operation was Dr. Robert J. White. The neurosurgeon put in a lot of time and research before he finally performed a head transplant from one monkey to another. Initially, it worked. The monkey could see, smell, and move its head around. However, the monkey didn't make it after just 9 days with a different body. Apparently, it suffered nerve damage during the procedure, and its immune system somehow rejected the new head. Not discouraged by this failure, Dr. White intended to perform a human head transplant during the 90s, but of course, no successful human head transplants have happened yet. His research has inspired Dr. Sergio Cavanera, another surgeon who plans to conduct a human head transplant in the near future. If it can be a success, it'll be nothing short of amazing. Do you guys think a human head transplant will ever be successful? Let us know in the comments, and do us a big favor and hit that like button. Number 9. Tummy tucks. We all know there are dog lovers who go way over the top when it comes to their furry little friends. That's understandable because, come on, dogs are pretty awesome. But who ever heard of dogs getting a tummy tuck? In 2013, Obi, a 7-year-old dog that weighed over 70 pounds, apparently needed one. With a lot of excess tummy fat, he was not in great shape at all. So his human, Nora Venata, took him into the emergency veterinary clinic of Tualatin in Oregon, where they performed a tummy tuck on Obi. He proceeded to lose 40 pounds and made a fast recovery. 40 pounds off a dog? That's a lot of weight. While Obi initially had loving owners who took good care of him, his previous owner's health began to decline with age. As they aged, they began to overfeed Obi, who became morbidly obese. They ultimately decided to do the best thing for him and give him to their relative Nora. Nora then took it upon herself to see what she could do for her new dog Obi. Yeah, it seems over the top for a dog to get a tummy tuck, but hey, guess it can work out. Number 8. Elephant experiment. It seems like in the 1960s, everyone was experimenting with all sorts of things. Even so, you might be surprised to learn that back in 1962, someone got the bright idea to give some psychedelics to elephants. I mean, they didn't just give elephants some drugs without a purpose. I should clarify that. It was carried out by a pair of scientists named Lewis West and Chester Pierce. Amazingly, they convinced a zoo in Oklahoma to participate in this weird psychedelic experiment, and they volunteered an elephant named Tusko. So these guys loaded a syringe with LSD, 297 milligrams to be exact, or roughly 3,000 times the amount of a human dose, and injected poor Tusko. It did not go well. Soon after being injected, Tusko unfortunately collapsed and passed within 2 hours. So, what was the conclusion of the experiment? Elephants were in fact highly sensitive to LSD. Number 7. Frankencat. Well, you might think the very thought of a Frankencat is the plot of a really bad movie. It's actually a real thing. In fact, it happened a year before Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein in 1818. Unlike the classic novel, this twisted experiment was real and had real-life consequences. The mastermind behind this lunacy was a guy named Karl August Weinhold. The German physician was convinced that the brain acted more like a battery and the spinal cord as wires, rather than vital components of life. To put his theory to the test, he used a cat. He removed the cat's brain and spinal cord, and of course, the poor cat didn't make it. He put silver and zinc in the cavities, and he would then hook up electrical wires into the zinc and silver and get the lifeless cat to twitch and hop. Weinhold did experiments as a means to exploring the field of galvanism, the study of natural physiological electricity. He was eventually banned from conducting his experiments in Prussia, so even by the standards of his contemporaries, he was pretty crazy. Number 6. Tumors on the mind. Anything involving brain surgery is pretty complicated. Our guess is it's not an easy procedure to pull off. It has to be extra challenging to perform brain surgery on a tiny little goldfish. Back in 2014, George, a goldfish living in Australia, was needing a brain operation. The 10-year-old fish had a tumor growing on his head, But under the steady hand of veterinarian Dr. Tristan Rich, George made a full recovery. According to Dr. Rich, George the fish could expect to live another 20 years. The operation took 45 minutes and only cost George's owners $200. Dr. Michael Sistri at the Brain Tumor Center at Columbia University said that Dr. Rich's operation took a lot of skill and creativity to perform. He's a doctor, we're not, so we'll just take his word for it that brain surgery on a fish isn't exactly easy business. Number 5, a tire and an elk. I'm not sure what exactly goes on at veterinarian school, but we'd be surprised if they offered a course in tire swing removal. But that didn't stop one veterinarian in Arizona from freeing a helpless elk who was stuck in her yard. There's probably never a good time to have antlers caught in anything, let alone a tire swing, but at least in this case, the elk happened to be in the yard of a trained professional. Dr. Deborah Butler noticed an elk all tangled up in a tire swing in her backyard. But that's not all. There was also part of a tree limb the swing was attached to. It was hanging off the rope, and every time the elk moved, the wood was hitting the elk in the face. So Dr. Butler sprang into action to free the elk. Of course, this procedure was actually a big risk. Elks are big, and they have antlers that can be quite dangerous. And Dr. Butler, of course, wasn't looking to get gored. She was constantly watching the antlers while she was making the right cuts. It took 12 long hours, but ultimately Dr. Butler was able to free the elk. She was finally able to get the log and the tire off, and the elk was on his way. Number 4, Humanzee? The early 20th century was a weird time. Aside from the world wars, there were a bunch of weird experiments. A Soviet biologist named Ilya Ivanov came up with a twisted concept called Humanzee. Basically, it was a convoluted idea that he could create a hybrid between a chimp and a man. Spoiler alert, his experiments failed. His experiments first started by taking human sperm and trying to inseminate female chimps. No cigar. Undeterred, he wanted to try again with ape sperm and human volunteers. Who were these women who actually volunteered to be artificially inseminated with monkey sperm? Anyways, that experiment never happened. But it's not because common sense prevailed. The experiment was delayed because his last orangutan suddenly died. Number 3, tiger cub issues. Earlier in 2018, a tiger cub named Mocha caught a few lucky breaks. Not only did animal rescuers rescue him from animal smugglers, but they performed an obscure operation to save the little guy's life. After his rescue from smugglers, Mocha was taken to the San Diego Zoo. However, it seemed that he was sick. He was dehydrated and underweight for a tiger cub his age. The staff acted quickly, and they diagnosed his issue as an intestinal obstruction. He was operated on, and the extensive procedure involved removing the obstruction and repairing scarring and damage done to his diaphragm. It's believed that Mocha's injuries were sustained while he was being smuggled across the U.S. and Mexico borders. His urine was seen to have an unusually high amount of protein, a telltale sign of an inadequate diet. The smugglers weren't feeding him well at all, in addition to treating him badly. Fortunately, Mocha is now healthy and thriving at the San Diego Zoo. Number 2, goldfish issues. The internet has a lot of surprises. For example, did you know that goldfish sometimes get constipated? No? It's probably because you don't have a goldfish for a pet, and you probably don't care about goldfish getting constipated. But anyways, when goldfish get constipated, it can be life-threatening. Back in 2015, an English businessman paid £300 for a vet to perform life-saving surgery on his pet goldfish. After noticing that his goldfish wasn't able to poop, the man took his pet to the Paul Barn Veterinary Center in North Waltham. By using his tiny instruments, they were able to remove lumps from the goldfish that were blocking the flow of things. The operation took around 50 minutes, and although it was a short operation, it was apparently still quite an arduous procedure. The surgery was a success, though. The fish made a quick recovery and was put back into his fishbowl, or wherever his owners kept him. What would you guys do? Pay for the surgery or just let the fish go? Number 1, Tiger Man. This pretty much doesn't belong on this list, but it's close enough and way too weird not to mention. Even by the internet standards, this is pretty out there. Known simply as Stalking Cat, Dennis Avner was a man who was obsessed with body modification. In short, he wanted to be turned into a cat. Now, to his credit, he came pretty close. Well, as close as a person can come to becoming a cat. His unusual journey began sometime in the 1980s after he developed a liking for tigers, citing an ancient Iroquoian practice which, by the way, experts say such a practice never existed, a stalking cat began to get his face tattooed to look like a tiger. Not only did he get a lot of tattoos, but he also underwent a lot of body modification surgeries. For example, he had subdermal implants in his face to change the shape of his brow. Then he had his ears reshaped to resemble a tiger. He also did things such as wear green contact lenses, split his upper lip, and removed his hairline. He even went as far as wearing a robotic tail. Needless to say, people found his life choices to be interesting. He became a media sensation with appearances on Larry King Live, Ripley's Believe It or Not, and The Animal Planet, just to name a few. Here's what's next.
However, when they killed the snake and cut it open, they were surprised to find a whole bunch of eggs in it. The snake, which was likely an African rock python, was pregnant and was about to give birth to dozens of eggs. The eggs are actually considered a delicacy, so it was kind of a good score for the villagers.